It's the Washington Commanders in the divisional round of the playoffs. Don't blink and you'll miss it here. They're headed over to the Detroit to take on those Lions, and we've got your game preview right here on Ref the District. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to Ref the District here, as we're going to give you our game preview here for the divisional round matchup. The 6th seed Washington Commanders head over to Detroit to take on the number 1 seed, well-rested, some players coming back here for the Lions, headed into the den, and we've got it all here for you. I'm Nathan, that's Stoner, that's Trev. Washington is a 9.5-point underdog, and of course you can head over to Bet Online for all of your betting needs. They're the number 1 trusted source for betting, not just in the NFL, but NHL action as well, NBA, UFC, you name it. They've got it all right at your fingertips. Whether or not you're a seasoned vet at betting or a newbie, they've got all the information you'll need to make those smart bets. Head over to Bet Online. The game starts here. Stoner, we've got nuggets from you. We've got news and notes. I think we're going to go ahead and start with the Nuggets. This is kind of a relatively new thing here for us. You've done those deep diving, my friend.
Yeah.
Any other information you want before we hit your plug?
Yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good. Let's get to eating here on Ref the District. I could not imagine a more appropriate music choice for our man Stoner and going into this Nuggets dive here. What are your nuggets, Stoner?
I created that little video there back in early December, maybe it was late November. Just this past weekend, I finally finished off the rest of those chicken nuggets. They've been sitting in the freezer for a month and a half, whatever. They weren't as good as I expected.
Yeah,
because I didn't eat them that time.
As I say, reheating nuggets, not a good idea.
Yeah, not a great idea. Yep, Saturday night, 8 p.m. on Fox at Ford Field. The announcers are Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady. Tom Brady will be the color commentator in this game, as Nathan said. It's 9.5-point underdog at Bet Online, and the over/under is 54.5. That's a huge over/under number. Mm-hmm. I might probably go with the over on that once it becomes game time. But don't listen to me, because I give wrong information about bets all the time. Look, this Lions offense is legit. We all know this, right? They're the number 2 offense in total yards, number 2 in passing, number 6 in rushing, and they're the number 1 offense in points per game. They average 33.2 points per game. Their defense is not bad either. In yards, they're 20th. In passing, they're 30th in the league. So think about that for a second. Their pass defense is 30th in the league, and at 244 yards per game. Their rushing defense, though, they're number 5, and they don't give up a lot of points. They only give up 20 points per game. They're 7th in the league in that. So keep an eye on some of those stats. Looking at their games that they played, it felt like a lot of the times they got up big on teams so much that they just had to keep throwing the ball.
Yeah, that's what it's looking like to me. There's a lot of these games where they had double-digit score leads. They also had quite a few squeaker buys. I mean, winning against the Bears by 3 points, then the Packers by 3 points. You have a shootout against the 49ers late in the season as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the 49ers, Brock Purdy put up 377 and 3 touchdowns on them.
Yeah, only a 6-point victory there, and that was a depleted 49ers team too.
And think about Caleb Williams, who played him twice, and one game threw for 256 and 3 touchdowns, another 334 and 2 touchdowns. So we had 5 touchdown passes in 2 games against this Detroit defense. So their defense can be had, but look, their offense is absolutely legit. Their defense is busted up. They obviously, as Lockdown is saying here, Aiden Hutchinson's gone. They, at one time, I believe they had 23 defensive players on IR. They're getting a couple of them back. But this is not a defense that you're going to be concerned about. So I think that's where they're going to have to expose the Lions in this game. A couple of interesting things. Here's the first nugget I got for you. They only played 3 running quarterbacks all year, 3 games against running quarterbacks. I don't consider like Caleb Williams a running quarterback. He's mobile, but he's not a runner, right? So only 3, and that's Kyler Murray, Arizona, Anthony Richardson for Indy, and then Josh Allen when they played the Bills in that game. And so some interesting stats in those 3 games combined. Those quarterbacks threw at a 57.3% completion percentage, right? In those 3 games, between those 3 quarterbacks, they had a total, Detroit's defense had a total of 1 sack in 3 games against running quarterbacks. 1 sack, right?
Okay.
And those 3 quarterbacks combined to run the ball 26 times for 174 yards. That's 6.6 yards per carry and another 2 touchdowns. So they have a problem with mobile quarterbacks. That's nugget number 1 for you, and I'm going to continue on that theme. I only got a few nuggets, so we don't have to drag this out too long. But the Lions defensively played the highest rate of man-to-man coverage of any team in the NFL. The highest. They ran man-to-man coverage at a 44.9% clip. Number 1 in the league. Jaden Daniels versus man coverage this year threw for 56% completion percentage, 9 touchdowns, 1 pick, and a 98.7 rating against man-to-man coverage. Okay, that's a good sign, right?
Donor, giving us a lot of hope.
Here's another nugget. The Lions
We're
blitz.
eating here, Trev.
I know.
The Lions blitz, which means 5 or more rushers at a 36% rate. That's the 5th most in the NFL. So they blitz a lot. Jane Daniels against 5 or more rushers, 58% completion percentage, 5 touchdowns, 0 picks.
I don't know. Collinsworth told us over and over again that if you blitz them, you're going to get to them. You're going to make them make mistakes.
Yeah. And he did that at a 110.6 rating against 5 or more rushers. Blitz doesn't bother him. This is where I was talking about earlier, that you can't find a stat or an analytic where he doesn't shine.
He's just good.
He's good. All right, here's one more.
Another nugget for it.
Another nugget is the Lions versus quarterbacks running or scrambling total for the entire year. They give up an average of 6.6 yards per carry against all quarterbacks, not just running quarterbacks, but any quarterback that runs on a running play or scrambles, 6.6 yards per carry. That's the 2nd worst in the NFL. This defense for Detroit can be had. Their offense is a whole nother thing. Their offense is a whole nother thing.
That offense is scary. And
I got one more nugget for you, which I know you guys know, but I want to share with everybody who is watching either live or later on. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Well, that was smooth. Jaden Daniels' 4th down conversion percentage is 86.9%. Think about that for a second. 86.9% of the time, he converts a 4th down. And as our friends over there with the Commanders, Logan Paulson, Santana Moss, Fred Smoot, said Michael Jordan's free throw percentage was 83.5%. So you have a better chance that Jaden Daniels is going to convert a 4th down.
Oh my gosh!
Than Michael Jordan to make a free throw.
Isn't that insane?
Think about
that's just insane. That's a silly stat.
We're going crazy.
That is an amazing stat to me. And remember, you guys questioned me early on in the year when I said that 3rd and 4th down for this team is going to be almost automatic. And then 3rd and short and 4th down when they go for it is going to be almost automatic because they can't stop Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on. And just the last thing I want to add to kind of the whole game preview deal, right, is that I think we talked about it earlier, or maybe it was off air earlier than that, is that the best defensive player for Washington in this game is Jaden Daniels. He's got to hold on to the ball and keep long drives to keep that high-powered offense. You're not going to stop that offense, but you're going to have to limit them in the number of possessions by our offense keeping the ball out of their hands. And you've got to get a turnover or two. And you have to play a perfect game. They're 15-2 for a reason. They're the number 1 seed for a reason. They didn't luck box their way into it. They beat Minnesota twice. They beat Green Bay twice. Like, their only losses are to Tampa and who I don't even remember who the other one was.
It's the Bills. It was Tampa week 2, and then they went on a long streak before losing to the Bills in a shootout.
This is a legit team, especially on offense. Don't hate on Jared Goff. He's a top 5 quarterback this year. He's awesome. This offense is awesome. They're well coached on both sides of the ball. Aaron Glenn is a fantastic defensive coach. Look at what he's done with 23 guys on IR. And you know all about their weapons with Goff, Jameson Williams, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Sam Laporta, and Tim Patrick, for crying out loud, as wide receiver 3, and Jahmyr Gibbs. And guess what? David Montgomery's coming back this week. Mm-hmm. And he is not just some running back. He's a stud as well. It's going to be tough sledding for this team, and you're going to have to play a perfect game to beat them. There's my Stoners Nuggets.
Yam was hitting that time of possession thing as well. It's kind of funny that this is probably going to be one of those things both teams are stressing, right? Detroit is going to want to keep Jaden Daniels off the field.
Absolutely.
And Jaden Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury are wanting to keep that offense off the field of Detroit's as well. You mentioned Jared Goff as a top 5 quarterback. I think a lot of people end up having issue with that because when you look at his overall kind of stats, there's nothing really that jumps out. Like, there's a lot of things that jump out about Jaden Daniels. But you got to think, as he mentioned, Jared Goff just has a lot of talent around him, and they were also just beaten on teams. And so there was a lot of times where he didn't have to do things. And I know Washington fans had mentioned that quite a few when it comes to Jaden Daniels. So his numbers would be even better if he didn't get hurt in the Carolina game. If he played the 4th quarter against Cleveland, if he didn't have to sit a half against Dallas. Yeah. So there's going to be, some fireworks, but I wouldn't be surprised if it hits the under because both teams are just going to try to milk the clock to not make this a boat race because a boat race in this regard, you don't know it might just be who has the ball last in that, if that's the case.
And I like our chances if that's the case, if we have the ball last.
Before we get to the Trevor's news and notes, I have a question. There's a lot of questions we got to get to in the from our viewers, and please keep those coming. I'm trying to star them as we're getting it. There's a lot of 1 and 4th downs. Great questions. Love getting them. We are going to get to those. My question is, and I had asked this to our friends over at District Divided. We're going to get their answer when they have their show Friday, but I need your guys' answers right now. And please, our viewers, help me out with this one as well. I've heard over and over again this week, ever since we knew we were going to go up against Detroit, if Detroit plays around and Washington is able to keep this close, Jaden Daniels can come and win this game. Now, a lot of people are referencing the fact that if it's like a 1-score game, Jaden Daniels can go, as you mentioned, Stoner, the 4th quarter heroics, the 4th down heroics that he has been able to put up this season. My question is, how big of a lead does Detroit need to feel comfortable? Because Philadelphia twice had a 14-point lead against these Washington Commanders. Not only had a 14-point lead, but added 6 points during the fourth quarter of the second game these two teams met, and Jaden Daniels still erased all of it and ended up winning a game for the Washington Commanders. So my question is, what lead would the Detroit Lions feel safe with? Because 14 points doesn't seem like it's enough of a lead. And most people are referencing that if it's a one-score game, Jaden Daniels is going to beat you. So how big of a lead do the Detroit Lions and their fans need to feel comfortable with?
17 or higher. Only because they're so fast. Their offense is so fast. This is a game, like Stoner said, you can't afford to go for 4th and 3 on the 40-yard line, down a touchdown, not convert it. Detroit comes out in 2 plays, throws a bomb at Jameson Williams. Now you're down by 2 touchdowns in a matter of 2 minutes. Let's say you get the ball back, come out, you go 3 and out, give them great field position. They come right back down the field. There's 21 that fast. Now you're like, okay, it's pretty much over. Yeah, we've seen late game heroics. They've been with, like you said, Nathan, 14 points or less. We can do it. Never seen it at 14 points or higher. Not saying we can't do it, but we're not familiar with that. So I think if you're Detroit and you don't want to make this a game, you need to be up by 3 scores. Only because we haven't done it yet.
I think 14 for Detroit is going to be okay. Because they have the type of offense that can run the ball if they need to and keep that clock running. So I think a 14-point lead in the second or in the fourth quarter is going to be enough. It's pretty rare to come back from a 14-point lead in the fourth quarter, but we're with 5, we're alive.
We're in rare times, Stoner. We're in rare times.
Yes.
How much do we have to be in the lead for us to win this game and prevent a high-powered offense to come back in the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, pre-bye, this was an issue with Washington, right? And I think even over the course, even after that Philadelphia game, I think over the course of the season, they have a negative point differential in the fourth quarter, I want to say. And so it was an issue. Washington, was in dogfights and even lost a few games against the Steelers, and against the Cowboys, where against Philadelphia the first time, 10-6 going into that fourth quarter, and they just kind of lost it. So that's a great question, Trev, because with this defense and against that offense, it just feels like it's going to be when does it break? Yeah. It's a very bend, don't break kind of defense. They're looking to get 1 or 2 stops. They know the offense can score points. If they just get 1 or 2 stops, that's all they're going to need to get a victory against any team, anywhere, anytime. But I would probably not feel safe against this offense, this Detroit Lions offense, without 28 points as fire starters here. Locked on law going all the way to 35. If there's 15 minutes on the clock, I feel like Detroit can put up 28 points.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And Washington's offense right now is not built to milk a lead, right? They can't run the ball right now effectively if they're trying to give it to B-Rob or Eckler or C-Rod or who's ever in there. They're not built for that. Now, if you just give it to Jaden Daniels and let him run, that's a totally different story, because you saw what he did with 4:41 to go in the game. He did a lot of that on his own, but they won't be throwing the ball as much. But again, what they did in overtime against Atlanta, it was just all Jaden Daniels. It was Jaden Daniels running left, Jaden Daniels running right, Jaden Daniels on the read option, Jaden Daniels quick pass, whatever. So they can do it that way, but it's not going to be one of those things where they're just going to be able to give it to B-Rob and let him crush the line for 4 or 5 yards every time.
Lord have mercy.
So you're going to have, if you want to hold them off, them on the other side, they are a quick strike offense. They can get it in 1 or 2 plays. They have the talent to do that. We have trouble not pass interfering guys for big gains, right? We've done that all year. So you're going to have to get a pretty big lead on this Detroit team if you want to hold them off. We like to goof on them a little bit on Detroit and all, but that's a legit football team.
Yeah, they are pretty good. And reminder, they were 1 win away from a Super Bowl appearance last year. So they've got some revenge coming, trying to get to the big dance later. Now, Washington is in their way, and Washington has a few players, Deron Payne and stuff, that are dealing with some injuries. So why don't we head over to the TNN, the Trav's News Network, for our news and notes.
For all your Commanders news and notes, it's the TNN. Here's Trev.
I love it every time.
Yeah, that is pretty dope. What up, everybody? Trevor here with TNN, Trev's News and Notes. Going to piggyback off the little segue Nathan had about Deron Payne's injury with some other injuries. Deron Payne dislocated his finger last game. Spoke with Scott Abraham either within the past couple of days. He's good to go. Not a big deal. Everybody on the injury report is either limited or full participant, but there's one standout DNP on there. That's Bobby Wagner. Nate Stoner alluded to this earlier in the program tonight about a play where friendly fire happened. Jalen Holmes rolled on the ankle of Bobby Wagner. If you were paying attention, you saw him get up and kind of be frustrated that he got injured. Stayed in the game. Was all happy-go-lucky after the game, of course, because we won last second and we advanced. But he hasn't practiced in the last 2 days. Since we played on Saturday, practice has been moved up a little bit. So we practiced on Tuesday. He was a DNP. Today, he's a DNP. Tomorrow is 1 day left, and then Friday is game status. So I am concerned, but at the same time, I'm not, because it's Bobby Wagner. And I don't think he's going to let this little ankle injury hold him out from a divisional playoff game in his 13th year.
But it could limit his ability.
It could. But I think at this point, we could probably benefit a little bit more with his smarts and his knowledge than his play. Because that can translate to the other people on the field if he can't give it his all.
Give us one or two of those going up to the line during an audible, figuring out what they're doing, and then telling the defense exactly what they need to do. That would be fantastic.
Exactly. So we shall see on that front. But like I said, I don't see him missing this. They said he was on the side field. If he wasn't at practice at all, I would be a little bit more concerned. But since he was out there doing stuff on the sideline, which means he has the mobility in the ankle, I look for him to play on Saturday. But that is the only concerning thing from the injury report. Zane Gonzalez is on there with a hip injury. And then Mike Garofalo from NFL Network reported that we tried out 3 kickers today. Aldrich Rosas, Matthew Wright, and Tucker McCann. And we also tried out a punter in the name of Ty Zenter. But he's reporting that's just for contingency plans, like the Austin Siebert. In case he couldn't go, we went and got, I think, Zane Gonzalez or somebody else just in case, and we elevated him. Same with the Greg Joseph move we did. We went and got him for a game because we couldn't go. So I don't look for that to be an issue, but it is an issue if they're trying out kickers. But also shout out to the coaching staff for having a plan just in case something doesn't go on. So not used to that, but it's good to hear that. Other than that, everybody should be a full go. Jordan McGee's probably not going to play. He has a hamstring injury. Sam Fortier reported that today. He's probably not going to play on Saturday. Marshawn Lattimore, for him to step up, not as rusty. So there's that for the injury news report. I've got some other stats to piggyback on Stoner's news and nuggets that I saw on Twitter today. Excuse me. Zach Selby put out a column for the team website about practice notes and what needs to happen for them to win the game, yada, yada, yada. And he said, Detroit has 13 players on defense, either on IR or the non-football illness injury. We all know Aiden Hutchinson is done, but he could come back for the Super Bowl if they get that far, but they won't after Saturday. And then they've got Kirby Joseph on there, who's leading the league, I think, in interceptions, but did not make the Pro Bowl. They've got Brian Branch, nice safety play from Alabama back there. But he says that the Lions have given up the 7th fewest points per game and held opponents to 14 points or less 7 times this year, with 13 people on the IR list. They have 16 interceptions, which is tied for 4th most in the league. And they've given up the fewest third down conversions by 12 attempts. But to flip that, the Lions have figured out a way to get around the depth and win these games, but in some of these games, they've allowed an average of 28.2 points to high-powered offenses, such as the Green Bay Packers, the Buccaneers, the Bills, and the Niners. What do we have? A high-powered offense. At least we did in the regular season, maybe not the last few games, but that was kind of our identity this entire season, top 5 offense. So, and then one last nugget for them. They held the Vikings in that number 1 seed clinching game to 3 of 13 third downs.
Mm.
Now, and then in 4 red zone attempts by the Vikings, they did not cash in those 4 attempts. Detroit held them out all 4 times. Now, granted, it was Sam Darnold quarterbacking back there. They forced 2 incompletion throws on 4th down and got turnover on downs. But at the same time, what do we have a bit of a hard time with this year? Scoring in the red zone. Now, I know, Stoner, you said if we get at the 2 or 3 yard line, we're scoring for Shane Daniels. That's true, but the red zone is 20 yard line. So we're not that great at cashing in. We just happened on Sunday. That Zach Ertz PI that didn't call, that was 4th and goal. We turned it over on downs. So that's kind of concerning, even though they have, like I said on paper, 13 missing players on defense. Their defense still finds a way. Kind of like our defense. We don't have the talent on defense, but when we need to make a stop, we make a stop. And that's what Detroit Lions do. So this game is going to be huge for us when it comes to controlling time of possession and scoring points. Now, one advantage I think we do have, we just played. Detroit hasn't played in 2 weeks. I expect them to come out. They're going to come out rusty. Unless you're the New England Patriots, you're going to come out rusty if you haven't played professional football competitively in 2 weeks.
That's fair.
So look for us we need to come out and punch them in the mouth early, get that lead, because it's not going to be that huge lead for long. Because like you said, Sam Laporta, they've got weapons at every position.
They got dudes, man.
Sonic and Knuckles in the backfield. Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Jared Goff. Laporta at tight end. Jameson Williams. Tim Patrick. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
I like Jameson Williams.
I know. Me too. Deep ball threat. And we don't have anybody that can do that unless it's Marshawn. So.
And I believe Amon-Ra St. Brown has 0 drops this year.
0 drops.
0.
So I love you, Diami, but that's why he was picked before you. No offense.
Or no, after you.
But you used to
go after Diami was picked first. That's why there's the beef.
That's why you have beef.
Yeah.
Because you were once known before late for dropping the ball a lot. Amon-Ra has never been known for that, literally. So at least we're going to go in this game fully healthy. Bobby Wagner, like I said, the only concern, but I think he'll be out there, maybe not 100%. And I don't think Dan Quinn's going to let him sit out. He's going to let him play. You know, they got history. It's Bobby Wagner. I'm not going to sit Bobby Wagner out of the official game.
Side note, Devontae Smith has 1 drop all year. And that was that crucial one against Washington. That's his only drop all year. Anyway,
that's dope. So I don't know. But other than that, like you guys were saying, this is going to be a challenge. It's going to be probably a boring game if it goes the way we talk about as playing keep away. Keep the ball out of Jared Goff's hands, and we're going to keep the ball out of Jaden Daniels' hands. So it might not be like Nathan said. You might want to do the under because we might be sitting here like, all right, another run, cool. Let me know when somebody throws the ball. You know?
Yeah. I'm thinking. I think these teams, especially against these defenses, can move the ball. And they're going to want to do these long mini play drives that keep the other offense off. So each drive might end in a score, but there might only be like 10 drives all game because they're just these long, 5-10 minute long drives.
Yeah, it's fair.
Dan Quinn, I love you, bro, but this game, take the points. Seriously, I know we were 3 and 5 on 4th down, but if we're in position to take the points, whether it's 3 points, take the points.
I disagree in this game, Trev. I disagree. You can't beat Detroit with 3 points.
You can't, but you can keep it. You can force them to maybe drive down the field longer than going forward on 4th and 2 at the 40-yard line and then giving them 2. You know what I mean? Better
going back to the basketball reference that we went to earlier, right? That is the equivalent of allowing Detroit a 3-pointer every time they come down, and you're just taking the layup. It sounds good on paper that you're taking the points, but over the course of the game, those 3-pointers, if they're shooting 40% at 3, they're going to beat you taking those layups. You absolutely. But it's funny you should bring that up, Trev, because I'd say the number one thing our viewers have been commentating all night long is right here. Does Dan Quinn out 4th down Dan Campbell on Saturday? They want to know does Washington continue the trend of zero
Yeah.
punch, just going for it? Do they out fourth down the Detroit Lions on
I think
Saturday
so.
night?
I think so. If we did 5 against Tampa Bay, I think we'll do more against Detroit just so we can keep them off the field longer. But I see a comment over there. Inside the 5 or 10, yeah, go for it. But 30 yards out or whatever, 30-yard line beyond, it's 4th and 2, just take the points. If you're down 10-0 and you don't get it, you have a potential of going down 17-0 right after that. Because everybody knows if you a turnover and downs is a momentum killer and momentum starter. Take the points, please. Take the points.
Grimjaw, scared money don't make money.
I'm not scared. I'm just be aggressively smart. Can I say that? Be aggressively smart.
Looks like Stoner. Something happened to
Just sitting
Stoner. He
here
just kind of froze.
and my Chrome just went.
Well, so scared money don't make money. I love that, Grimjaw. Yeah, I'm with Stoner on this one. You got to keep the aggressiveness. At this point, it is the team's identity. It is what they're good at. I think if my math is correct, Washington is 23 for 28
overall on fourth down
this year.
Yeah, we weren't playing
because they win in the game 20 for 23, and they were 3 for 5. So my math checks out. I think 23 for 28.
Well, just remember,
pretty dang good.
Daniels is 87% on fourth down.
Yeah.
86.9%.
Pretty damn good.
I can't wait.
Pretty good.
Pretty damn good.
Wait. Oh, and we've been practicing inside with loud music and loud noise.
Love that.
That's what's going to happen on Saturday.
Love that. It's going to be a noisy one out there in Detroit. And it's a pretty active one here in the chat as well. A lot of questions. We have Sonic and Knuckles from Detroit over there. A lot of questions coming in, Josh, early on. Where's Chris Rodriguez? Eckler and Chris would be a 1-2 punch, or B-Rob needs to step up. Let's see here. Ronald, it's Wednesday, nerve-wracking, waiting for Saturday. We need C-Rod to help us control the offense. We cannot have B-Rob only giving us 2 yards and no gains. We had Catfish early on, talking all sorts of smack about Brian Robinson, what he's able to do. How can this rushing attack from Washington help against these Detroit Lions? Because it's playoff football, and you hear an old adage all the time. To win here in the playoffs, you have to run the ball and stop the run. Washington's not very good at the latter. How can they be better at the former?
You got to activate Chris Rodriguez, man.
I hate
to be that. I mean, maybe because B-Rob is he's just not cutting it, bro. He's not cutting it. And I know
he's getting
beating them.
He's getting hit behind the line of scrimmage.
Okay, well that happens.
Through
but
that.
he's also not as agile or as small and shifty as C-Rod to evade that getting hit in the backfield. Once you hit B-Rob, I mean, he fights for yardage, yeah, but that's after he gets going. But he has to get going first.
Yeah.
All I'm saying is C-Rod has done nothing but produce when his name has been called this season. We haven't been like, oh, well, C-Rod, why'd they activate him? We're sitting there calling for his name to be activated in week 20 of playoff football because he provides a running back spark. He really does. B-Rob's the sexy name. He's the aggressive downhill runner, but he has to get downhill first, and he's having a hard time doing that. C-Rod does not have a hard time doing that in the limited amount of time he's gotten a chance to play. I don't know. How about you just don't activate McNichols and put C-Rod there instead, because McNichols really hasn't done anything outside of 1 yard line for us.
The pass blocking,
yeah, but it's huge. But
yeah,
you know what I mean. We got
Jane
Daniels.
A few times we saw him pass blocking though, but I mean, it's definitely a different.
Tough.
Option.
It's just I don't know the answer to that because we have not been running the ball outside of Jaden Daniels.
That's your answer, Trev. That's your answer. Jaden Daniels has to run the ball 15 to 18 times. He just does.
Man, bro, that's
what he's been doing.
It's playoffs, man. You do what you got to win.
He's going to have to do it. He's going to have to run the ball a lot and not just scrambles. They're going to have to have a lot of read options in there and just. I mean, they were running like the old single wing, 1940 style football once in a while. They just snap it to Jaden and have the entire team blocking for him.
It was great. That was fun. I loved also seeing Jaden Daniels Marcus Mariota ended up doing the sneak, but I loved that little wrinkle of him back there behind B-Rob. So you have Mariota, you have Brian Robinson, and you have Jaden Daniels. And that, to me, I loved it because, honestly, that's a legit formation here, is just let Mariota, do even a play action to Jaden Daniels and find an open receiver, because if Jaden Daniels gets that ball, things are going to be trouble for the defense there.
Bro, I'm so nervous about our defense, to be quite honest.
Well, I mean, you should be. This is not a great defense. It's a well-coached defense.
Yeah,
I know, but it feels like the teams we played, I've been more concerned about one aspect of offense rather than the deep threat, the running game, the tight end game, the underneath game on Raw. You know what I mean? So, like, Joe Witt's got to call the game of his life right here.
Yeah, I will say this. Don't get too frustrated, just like in this last game. Don't get too frustrated if Detroit jumps out early and the defense isn't playing well and the offense is kind of stumbling a little bit. Don't get too frustrated. We've seen it a few times in these last few weeks, and they've still pulled out the win, because you get to the fourth quarter, Jaden Daniels is averaging 9 points per game in the fourth quarter. Which quarterback in the NFL averages more points per game in the fourth quarter in 2024? Correct.
I don't know.
None of them. He completes 72% of his passes in the fourth quarter.
All right, but
13 fourth quarter touchdowns. Again, which quarterback has more?
Okay. It's fine, but
none of them.
But here's the reality of it.
Yeah.
These fourth quarter wins are great because we're winning, but look who they're coming against, which is the reality of it. The Atlanta Falcons.
Philadelphia Eagles. The Falcons who were in the playoffs before we beat them.
And Atlanta win.
They only because they were winning that crappy division with less than 10 wins. They weren't a good team, let's be honest. The Saints? Really, you guys? The Saints? With Spencer Rattler?
That's a fair.
Come on.
And that wasn't even our offense getting that. That was our defense actually
Eagles team,
stopping that.
Kenny Pickett-led Eagles team. Kenny Pickett. So let's just be.
We're muting Trev after that one. You cannot use the Philly excuse. You can't use the Philly excuse.
I can.
We talked at length about how it did not matter.
The Lions are 15-2 because
they're a better team than the Eagles.
Everywhere.
I will give you that, but you can't use the backup QB thing. Jaden Daniels put up 36 points on the number one defense in the league. Has nothing to do with Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett
didn't give up 22 points to a rookie quarterback in the fourth quarter.
Kenny couldn't lead him down to score points. That's the only reason why they were out that game.
Again, this defense doesn't need to be lights out, okay?
It does.
This defense doesn't need to be lights out. This defense needs 1 or 2 stops. That's it.
Bro, they're 15-2.
Stoner's again having issues. No, there he is. Now he's blinking. He looked like he froze on us again.
They're 15-2.
They are 15-2. And Washington are the dogs here.
And yes, and we had a Hail Mary against the Bears. So let's just be honest here. We didn't come out here and escape these Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, we didn't do that. We barely escaped these mediocre teams who were fighting for position in the division with less than 10 wins. I'm just being real. So
I understand you're being real. But and look, I'm the one that's been saying that all year. I'm the one that's been saying that this team was.
You called this fraud, yeah,
right? So I understand where you're coming from, Trev. But what he's doing in the fourth quarter is against everybody. And at some point you have to just say, well, he's not playing against a Canadian Football League team here. He's playing against, and he's doing it week after week after week after week after week. Whether the team is winning the game or losing the game, he is excelling in the fourth quarter. And in these last few weeks, when he's had to do it, when the other team knows that he has to do it,
he's doing it.
I And he's doing it against some teams that were desperate.
I'm just keeping it real.
Right?
Stuff.
Atlanta was desperate. He did it against Tampa in a playoff game on the road. So I get it, Trev. There are some ways that you can minimize it a little bit. There's some context there. But he's done it all year. This is not something that he's done over the course of a few games against some bad teams. He's done it all year. And he was going to do it against Pittsburgh if that freaking ref knew how to spot a football. He was going to come back against Pittsburgh too.
I'm not doubting. I'm just keeping it real.
Keep it real, but
that's all.
Be careful because
our viewers are keeping it real here in the comment section. Hopefully they're keeping it real by hitting that like button as well and sharing this content so other people can join in the conversation as we're live every Wednesday here on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube as well. Let's see if you're keeping it real, Trav, with your score prediction. Washington in our poll right now, nearly 1,500 votes, 79% as the victors here. 31-30 Miracle in Detroit, says David. 31-24 says Josh. 41-38 Commanders, says Ace. It's going to be a thriller. Let's hear what our viewers have as far as this score. And Trav, you start us off. Why don't you?
33-27, go Commanders.
33-27, go Commanders.
33-27.
Yeah, I think look, Detroit's a better football team. They're a legit 15-2. They didn't sort of luck box their way into 15-2. They're at home. This is the second year in a row that they've gotten to this point in the playoffs, and they got even further last year. They're a darn good football team. They're built the right way. They're well coached on both sides of the ball. They've got stars all over the field on both offense and defense. And they're beating some of these teams. Think about what they did to Minnesota and Green Bay, two playoff teams. They swept them, went 4-0 against those two teams, in a Minnesota team that won 14 games this year, and they went 2-0 against them. So it's going to be a tough task. But right now, I don't know how you can bet or how you can pick against Jaden Daniels. I don't know how you can do it. You have to believe that this is something special that's going on this year. This is the magic carpet ride, and until proven otherwise, I can't pick against them. So I'm going to go Washington. It's going to be a little bit lower scoring because I do believe what Nathan was saying about how both teams can control the ball and they're going to limit each other's possessions. And as long as Washington doesn't turn the ball over, they can win this game in the fourth quarter, and I think they will. So I'm going to have it 27-26 Washington.
Ooh. Wow, we got two Washington. You guys are going to do this to me?
You got to stay with it.
Oh my goodness! I don't want to be the bad guy here.
Well, I mean, you gotta, you know,
statistically, there. I'm not even talking the betting lines, which are heavy on Detroit right now. Statistically, this Detroit team is. We're talking about, in here metaphor, team of destiny and everything like that. Detroit, throughout the entire year, looked like they were destined for not just the number one overall seed, which they ended up winning, but also the Super Bowl. They have one of the scariest offenses in the league. We've talked about this offense of theirs. Jared Goff has Gibbs and Montgomery in the backfield. He's got St. Brown, Williams, and Patrick out wide. Sam Laporta is having a good season to back up his rookie season. They've got a strong offensive line that has a right tackle in Sewell, who's fantastic. This is a team that Washington is looking at, that they want to they want to do what Detroit did. Detroit was us a few years ago.
Absolutely.
Not as strong out the gate. Okay. Dan Campbell had his work cut out for him. They had to put some pieces together, but we did take Lance Newmark from the Detroit Lions, who helped piece together a very talented Detroit team. Their defense looks like it could be for the taking, but some of those stats are misleading because some of those stats are coming from the fact that it's a blowout. And you're going to have good passing yards when it's prevent defense because the game's out of hand. And you're going to have some of these scores where they're kind of sleepwalking. We've seen it from Washington. On paper, there's zero reasons you should be picking Washington to win.
Agreed.
Except for one. And he wears number 5 for burgundy and gold. And as Stoner mentioned, at this point in time, I just don't see I don't see how you bet against him. I don't see this Detroit team rolling over Washington. And because I don't see them rolling over Washington, because I think that Washington will be able to keep up the score. Maybe it's going to be a little bit, like the Dallas game where the first Dallas game where Washington's always just kind of like a score behind and they're kind of doing it. Or maybe it's going to be like the Cincinnati game where it's just boom, 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 score after score after score. But Washington has a playmaker and a play caller who can keep that defense on its back heel. And when the game's on the line, if you had to ask me who I'm going to take, Jared Goff and Ben Johnson or Jaden Mother Truckin' Daniels and Cliff Kingsbury, I'm taking Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, hands down.
He can do it. So I'm going to take Washington. It's a clean sweep here for the burgundy and gold.
That usually doesn't bode well, but all right.
35-28.
Oh, wow.
Washington. No field goals, just extra points in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there's a couple 2-point conversions because neither team wants to punt the ball, but that's where I'm going to go with it. It is a higher scoring game than I alluded to earlier, but it's just every drive, it's just they're going to be looking to reach the end of that end zone. That's what I'm going to be. It's going to be funny. It's going to be a fun game. Looking forward to seeing it. We'll have an instant reaction for you after the game live. Doesn't matter when it ends. We know it's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern for that game. We'll be on after it finishes right here on YouTube and Facebook.